Hello and welcome back to the channel, and today we are back with the Bentley in the unit, and we're actually looking at fitting CarPlay, so a new infotainment system into this today. And if you stick to the end, and what I'm going to do is a bit of an overview of the actual unit when it's in place, in position, show you what it looks like for one, and then also give you some idea of functionality, what's on there still, what is retained from the original unit, and the good points and bad points that we've noticed since having this installed. So this is the original setup, and this is a 2008 Speed edition, so it's got the slight facelift that was done on the Mark 1s with the newer style steering wheel, and it's actually aged really well, but it doesn't have the likes of your CarPlay and Android Auto. So this will be a big improvement to the infotainment system and really modernise it. So this unit has come from Alibaba, and it was the nicest style unit I could find. If you'd have got it from a UK seller, you'd have been paying probably £1,500 to £2,000 for this unit. We paid for this one, I think it's around £700. I will chuck up the price. With that, it does mean that it's come from China direct, so there's a bit of wait time on it getting over. I think this one took about 3 weeks, something like that, so not too bad to be honest. And it seems to be really well packaged. So that's the base unit for your climate control with your newer style digital temperature control. Got plenty of cables to go through it, and then in terms of your actual fascia plate for your top half, you've got this section. And unlike some of the other sort of cheaper models, this has the full screen display that goes across the centre section, replacing the original screen and buttons. So you've actually got a separate upper and lower section to fit in, rather than just one big panel that will fit in place. So it'll be interesting to see how that all goes together. I don't believe there's actually any instructions with this, so I'll try and identify the cables. It should be fairly simple and straightforward, but yeah, I'll show you the process as we get on. Okay, so the plan of action is to strip this out. So this is the original unit, and what we're mainly looking to do is get rid of this phone holder. Hopefully this will not need to be now used again. It's actually well stuck on there, that's for sure. Hell of a lot better not to have anything stuck on the screen. And yeah, that, as I said, that display will go from this section to this section. So this top section here, that'll be separate from it. It'll step in then. And then, as I say, it's basically a facelifted version of this control panel down here as well. So it's really good in that you've still got the buttons, not just a big screen, which I'm not personally a big fan of in terms of the big touch screens. I think when you're actually driving, in reality, they are quite hard to work out where you're pressing. I prefer to be able to have a feel of a button, so you don't actually have to put that much attention on looking at the display. I think the first thing to do is actually take this panel off the top here. So it's just your normal trim removal tools, just to pop the actual fascia panel off. Pretty easy, and just one plug at the back for the clock. And then you've got your Torx bolts that are really difficult to get to actually. So I actually used some Allen key ones, so it gives me that extra length because they are sat quite deep in there. And that allows you to pull the infotainment screen out with the control panel at the bottom. Or at least that's what I thought initially. So there's 4 of those bolts around the outside, and I'll show you the issue I had now. Right, so what I found is there's actually a 5th Torx bolt in there. So you've got the 4 to either side around the head unit, and there's one right in the centre there, which is a bit awkward to get to with this centre console still in place. So I've put it into neutral. Already attempted to lift this, so it comes out quite easy. But yeah, that's going to be the next stage, getting this lifted out of place, unscrewing that, and then we'll put it back into park just so we can turn the actual car back off. So I didn't actually end up taking that trim piece all the way out. I just released it so it gave me a little bit more leverage, which then meant I had a slightly larger gap underneath the control panel, so I could actually get to that Torx bolt and undo that. Once that was released, you can pull the whole head unit towards you, and then it's a case of just unplugging all the cables at the back end. So just to highlight to you guys where these actual Torx are now. So we've got 4 around the outside, and then we've got that one awkward one at the bottom, and you can see this is the new back plate that the new infotainment system will sit into, and all those holes match up. And then as you put it side by side with the original unit, you can see they are in the correct position as well. So when it comes to actually fitting that in, it's a lot easier because all you're doing is fitting the back plate first. So you've not got the infotainment system to work around, and it's just those 5 torque bolts to put back in. Okay, so for the facial panel itself, what we do want to keep for the new one that's going in is the air vents, the Breitling clock, and then the controls for your air vents. So it's as simple as they just twist off. And then as we move to the back of the unit, we're going to want to remove these Torx bolts here, and then that will release this and the clock, and then we'll bolt that into the new unit. Okay, so with the head unit top section for the clock and the air vents, you don't actually get the chrome surrounds, so I've had to chop them out of the existing and basically glue them back in to this unit. So it's not the best of ways to do it. You'd expect new ones to come with a unit really, but they've gone in. So I'm now going to crack on with fitting the clock and the vents into the back of here, which is just as straightforward as it was to take them off the old one. Once that's in, that'll go into the section at the top. Okay, so in terms of the quality of the product, from the face of it, it looked fantastic. All the panels that came with the kit looked really smart, and the gloss black matched really well with the interior trim as well. Where it let itself down was that top section. As I say, I wasn't very impressed that you had to steel the chrome surrounds around the air vent controls. I think that's really quite poor. Another issue I did have with that top panel was when it sits in, it doesn't clip into the actual backplate very well, and also because of the dimensions of it aren't quite right, wears into the leather on either side. So what I ended up having to do was actually use a Dremel and trim it back to give a good enough gap so that it didn't actually mark the leather, and it actually sat them into the space a little bit better and even held better in the clip that it was meant to slot into on the back plate. Still not perfect, but that was as good as I could actually make it. When it comes to the actual cables and getting those all in, that was more difficult than it needed to be because you didn't get a wiring diagram or any kind of instructions with this. So there are tabs with notes in Chinese on there. I used Google Translate on my phone to try and work out what they were, and I managed to match things up pretty much spot on the first attempt. I did later on make sure that I got that confirmed when I got a wiring diagram eventually through for it, and yeah, everything was in place as it should be. The one thing that it didn't allow for is the capability of the original rear view camera, and that was really annoying. It wasn't advertised that it wouldn't allow for that, and I was basically told that because it's older technology, the new infotainment system wouldn't be able to recognize or talk to the actual original rear view camera. So it looks like we're going to have to now look at replacing the original rear view camera with an aftermarket one, which is really annoying, and definitely something worth noting if you are looking to install one of these and you have the original rear view camera. What I will do as well, guys, is I'm not going to do a run through of the actual wiring because I had a lot of back and forth trying to get this sorted, but we'll chuck up a wiring diagram now that I've translated into English, and I will put a link in the description below to someone else who's done a YouTube video covering this exact same unit, so feel free to drop onto that. It's a lot longer length video, goes a lot more in depth in terms of what you get and what you need to do. There are quite a few of these cables that you can plug in prior to putting the infotainment system into the car and plug it into the wiring harness behind the original head unit, which makes it a lot easier then you're not fighting with cables that you don't need to look for on the original harness. And then once you actually do get to that point, I'll just throw a picture here of mine all plugged in, ready to be pushed back into position, and that completes the install. Right guys, I'm going to hand you over to Paige. It's her daily car this, so I thought it best that Paige did the review of functionality and how it is to live with on a daily basis.
So this is CarPlay in the Bentley. So we've got the new screen and the new climate control. Both work pretty intuitively actually. So all of these options, you've got the original radio, music, the old school navigation, all of that. You've got 2 different pages. So you've got your app installation. You've actually got Android Auto on this as well. So it's not just CarPlay, you've also got straight into Android Auto. Original car settings, this is the main one that you'd probably use. All your vehicle settings such as wiper service position, and predominantly in this it's just your tyre pressures and things like that. Parking mode, headlight settings and things like that. Very easy visuals when it comes to your tyre pressures. You've got your trip information of all your latest trips. sound settings for all of the stereo system. And finally, hang information is to do with how the car is lowered, suspension and stuff like that. So at the top you've got 3 different options. That one will take you straight back to CarPlay. This one takes you back to there. Or alternatively, you've got the back setting as well. You've also got the option to go back here. You've got navigation, which will be the original navigation, and also home. So that will always take you back to this screen here. When it comes to climate control, it's backwards. It's on the left. So we can't seem to change that. Which does mean that if you have your climate control synced, you need to use or change the left-hand dial to change them both. Otherwise, if I just change the right-hand side, it's only changing that side, which is a bit annoying, but you get used to it. Everything on here is the same, so it will go orange if it's on. When it comes to CarPlay, obviously you've got the easy, quick settings there, or alternatively you've got your main menu here, where you've got different options. Whichever ones you use the most will be down the side. So if I start using Waze, instantly it's changed over here, so I've got really quick, easy access. So as I'm driving, I can change my music, and I can get straight back onto Waze as well. But yeah, it's really easy to use. I've got no issues, apart from actually when you're driving, sometimes this screen will just pop up for no reason, absolutely no reason whatsoever, and it doesn't go back for like 5 seconds maybe, which is quite long, which can be annoying if you're trying to find somewhere. So when it happens, you just literally click that top button there, and then it will go, well, it wouldn't do that, it would go back onto the screen that you were on. So yeah, that's the only qualm that I have with it, but otherwise it's pretty decent. I think it's really intuitive. You've also got your sound here, also got obviously your sound that works on your thing, and then to go back and forward, this isn't a button, this is actually like a twiddle. So if I just quickly go on to music, it's just like it kind of does a notch, so you can feel when you're going forwards and backwards. And then media, I think that will take you to the original settings. Yeah, that's taken me to the original. Stop that before copyright. So all the media, the radio, the navigation and the phone, they're to go to the original car settings. They will not be part of your CarPlay, which a lot of you probably know, but I didn't. I just learned that now. So yeah, there it is.
And I think the only other thing to add to the page is what we mentioned earlier about the lack of the availability to use the original reverse camera. So this is the screen that will come up at the minute when you actually put the car into reverse. So again, that's something that we're going to look to replace further down the line. Other than that, it has made a massive difference to the interior of this car. It's definitely modernised it, definitely updated it, and be really interested to see what you guys think. If you drop us a comment below, if there's anything that you want to know about the actual unit or its functionality that we've not mentioned in this video, I'd look to do that. And as always guys, thank you very much for watching. I'd really appreciate it if you could hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It's free to do and really helps us out. And other than that, I'll see you on the next one.